Hello, it's Vicky with Condi Systems Tech Support, and today I'm in Photoshop and I'm going to demonstrate a technique in there called masking layer or adjustable layer using your brush tool in Photoshop Elements. I'm in version 10. These tools will also be in other element versions as well as 10. So this is kind of the end result of what we're going to work with, but using a different image. So what we've come from here, and that is this image here. So we want to drown out the background so that we can zoom in or basically focus on one object in an image, taking out all the distractions in the back. So to do that, sometimes I like, to blur out backgrounds of images if something's a good image, or I want to use it for something and I don't want the background, the noise from the background to take away from what I'm trying to relay in the photograph. I can come in and do some fancy things in Photoshop which are very helpful and makes the image more appealing. So anyway, having said that, I'm going to go to an image I was working with in an earlier video, and it was a masking video as well, and that was placing this bird into this background. But I'm going to create a background noise and focusing in on the bird using the masking tools again, and I'm going to show you how to do that step by step. So we're going to come over here. As with Photoshop, everything works in layers, and that's all versions of Photoshop, CS versions as well. Elements works a little different than CS versions, but the tools are there. They're just the terminology may be a little different, and you can do this with CS versions as well. I'll probably do a video on that one showing how to use those tools in there. But this is for elements, and I'm going to create another background layer, and I'm going to right click here. I'm going to say duplicate layer. It's going to be my copy, so I'm going to say OK. And from the background layer, I'm going to create another layer. I'm going to duplicate layer. I'm going to call this layer. We're going to use a filter here called under the blur tool called spin, and so we'll call this spin layer. And we'll just say OK. And so now I want to create another layer, and so I'm going to right click and create another layer, and I'm going to duplicate the layer. I'm going to call this let's say I'm going to use a zoom tool, so we'll call this zoom layer. So I'm going to say OK. Now I want to place my layers in the correct order. I want this background layer to be at the top. So basically that's my first layer, my second layer, my third layer, and my fourth layer. So that's the way I want it laid out here. That's the way you're going to want to do yours as well. So I'm going to click on my spin layer because that's the layer I'm working with, and with Photoshop you have to select the layer in which you're working with. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on filter, and I'm going to come down to blur, and I'm going to do a radial blur, and I'm going to choose spin, and I'm going to bring this level down, and you'll notice here your blur center will get more or should I say less noisy as you drop the level. And I'm going to drop the level to about, say, I don't know, let's just say about 11 or 12. That's where I like it to be, so I'm going to say about 11. And I'm just going to click OK. And if I turn this one off, you'll be able to see the effect that it had on that layer, because again, this is the top layer, and I can turn it off using my little eyes here. I can turn it back on. Okay, so what's on top will be what usually shows unless you've turned it off. Alright, so now what I'm ready to do is click on my zoom layer, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, and I'm going to choose the radial blur. My little dialog box opens back up. I'm going to left click on the radio button here. It says zoom, and I'm going to make this a little higher, or a lot higher should I say. I'm going to put it on about 80. We'll go 70, and I'm going to say OK. So now you can see the difference in the two. Okay, so now I have two additional layers with that I've created with to distract the background so that you can't tell what is really going on here. Okay, so now what I need to do is create my adjustable layer. So I want to select the layer in which I'm going to create the adjustable layer from, and that's my background copy here. So I can turn that one off. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to choose Layer, New Layer, and I want to group with Previous Layer. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to call this Adjustable Layer. Okay, and I'm going to leave this at normal, and you can change your opacity here. I'm going to leave it at 100. I'm going to click OK. So now what I want to see happen is I want this layer below the background layer. So I'm just going to click and hold it and drop it here. And now that I have that there, I need to group these two layers. Okay, so I want to group it. I'm going to hold my Alt key, line up my mouse or my arrow just between those two layers, and click one time, and that groups the layers. Okay, and I know that because of the indentation space here. Alright, and I'm selected onto my adjustable layer. That's where I want to be. That's the layer we're going to work with now, the adjustable layer. And so all these eyes are on, this one's off. And now what I want to do is come over to my background and my foreground color. And I can reverse this by clicking this arrow. Okay, I want my background, my foreground color to be black, and the black we want is the RGB 000. That's what I'm going to use, and 000 is a true black. I'm going to click OK, and my background color will be 255, 255, 255 for my RGB. That is a solid white, so I'm going to say OK. And just wanted to show you how to do that if those colors weren't there. So now I can alternate between the two. I want the black to be on top for what I'm fixing to do. I'm going to go up here and choose my brush tool, and once I have that selected, I'm going to choose the brush. I have all kinds of things I can do here, but the one I want is already shown here, and I'm going to choose let's say 13. Okay, and that's my size pixels, and that's going to create a little round brush tool that I'm going to be working with. So X out of that. Now what I'm ready to do is to bring this bird out in this image. So to do that, I'm going to hold my left mouse key and just kind of brush over the bird, the areas of the bird that I want to be displayed are clear. And I'm going to release my mouse key every once in a while because in case I have to undo something, I don't want to have to undo all my work. So occasionally I'm just going to release my mouse key so that I can just go back a little ways if I have to do an undo on something. Now what I really need to do at this point is kind of zoom in, so I'm going to press my Control plus key, and that's going to zoom me in a little closer so I can see what's going on, or be more accurate. And again, this is not going to be perfect because this is a demonstration. I would expect that you guys out there who are going to try this would probably spend a little more time with it than what I'm going to for the purposes of the video anyway. So I'm just going to kind of perfect as much as I can with this radius I have here, and then I'm going to go and make it a little smaller. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that. As you can see, my lines are coming sharper, and so we're actually working on this layer, as you can see. Now I'm going to change these pixels to a smaller radius so that I can get in these tight places. And as you can see, there's my level there. I can just choose. And so now I'm going to detail this out. If I hold my shift key, I can do a straight line. So it's just kind of guesswork right here a little bit. And if I really want to be precise, I'd probably make my radius a little smaller, but I just want to get my message across on how this is done, and so you guys can go and use your images to create something really neat. So again, you can see it's starting to sharpen up, and everything's coming through. And if you want to just kind of leave a little bit of a blur on the edges there so that it just kind of blends in, you can do that as well, just by not really putting so much emphasis on those areas. So if you want to bring his feet in a little bit, you can do that. So this is how you kind of bring this image out using these backgrounds. So, and let's say that limb a little bit. Let's say that that's almost where I want it to be. So I'm going to zoom out, and now what I have here is the distracted noise in the background. I have the bird centered in this whirlwind effect, or I can turn that off and give it a more starburst effect. So if I were done with this image, I would just right click and flatten the layers, and once you flatten a layer, basically you've pretty much you'd have to hide all the other layers, meaning that you can't go back. Once it's flattened and you save it that way, you can't go back. So in some cases you may want to save a copy using all the layers. It takes more space on your computer, but it's safe if you had to go back and not actually have, if you didn't want to have to start from scratch recreating this. Make sure that you save the layers as well if you're the type person who, you know, like myself, might have to go back and redo something. So once you flatten it, you can save a copy flattened as well. Either way you want to do it. So flattening the layers is kind of like saying it's a finished product. So once you've created your flattened layer and you save it, you can save it as a PDF, or you can save it as a JPEG, however you wish to save it, and keep it on your computer or whatever it is you want to do with it. So if you have any questions about adjustable layers or mask layers, or using your brush tool in Photoshop Elements, I hope this video will help. My name is Vicki. I'm with Conde Systems, and as always, thank you for your time.